on. Lost my voice. This past weekend, I got some friends staying in from the UK. So it's Monday morning. This is our weekend recap. Another busy weekend of sport, boxing, MMA. We're gonna use this space. I'm gonna take this hour to talk a little bit about how your weekend went. The Discord was crazy this weekend. I know a lot of the boys hit. We did really well with our picks. My biggest victories were actually in the octagon. So hats off to the boys who about a month ago kind of pushed me into giving you guys my MMA picks. So yeah, we hit there. I put all the picks and parlays up on and in the Discord. Boxing wise, I only had two plays, the main and the co-main. There wasn't a lot of action, so I went 1 for 2. I went for it on the underdog, Kenny Sims Jr. Risked it, didn't hit for me, which is fine. Can't be too mad at that, especially when you're, rolling the dice on a dog. I thought he was a live dog. He fought really well. I'd like to know how you guys scored it, though. So in the comments section now, I want to know how you guys scored Kenny Sims versus Duarte. Personally, even though I picked Sims, I definitely don't think it was a robbery. And we hit on Regis, which was a truly surprising, entertaining fight. It was fun. Had a lot of drama. Who would have thought Regis and JoJo? A lot of drama. So as you guys are checking in, I appreciate you. If you guys hit, let me know if you guys hit. Support the channel any way you can. I like what Gary says. If you followed any of my picks, whether boxing or UFC, and you hit, let me know. Like this video, subscribe if you haven't. Also, guys, if you've seen on our stream the blue stars, these are the Johnny Says Boxing Insiders. If you want to become part of our Discord, become a boxing insider on YouTube. It's all connected. It's a couple bucks a month. That link is pinned in the comment section below. Yeah, Javon Green, I do UFC. I hit 8 for 8 yesterday. I put all the picks on the page. Yeah, so I'm Adu's in the house. You guys are checking in. As you check in, how's everyone doing? Not the busiest week ahead of boxing. Not a lot of work going on, but we do got one card in Africa, and like always, no matter how much we win, you guys know my work ethic. I'm always looking ahead. So we have a fun card on DAZN in Africa. We'll get to that later, and we have a UFC card. We'll get to that later. But yeah, let's get into. I want to know how you guys scored Regis. I want to know how you guys scored Sims and Duarte. I'm just pulling up our tickets. The last Africans. Oh, GOAT. I remember. We have an African card. The last one was Amir Khan in Nigeria. So my buddy who lives in the UK was actually just getting ready to get his Uber to the airport. And I was telling him about that African card. It was horrible. The stream was terrible. DAZN eventually ended up like an hour into it, removed it, erased it from the history books to where you couldn't even go to DAZN's website and find it. It was that bad. The boys and I, we were on like some bootleg YouTube stream, getting cut in and out. It was terrible. Hopefully this one's better. Fingers crossed. Okay, so I gave you guys my upset of the week. Boxing fan, appreciate you, man. Boxing fan supporting the cause. Member of the channel. Thank you for the tip, brother. I appreciate you. So I gave you guys my upset of the week. It was a 2-leg. It was actually in the UFC. It paid 7-1. That's what I went. That was my biggest bet and my biggest hit this past weekend. 7-1. We hit with Neil Magny on the money line and Chris Duncan on the money line. I went big on that, and that came through. Hand History Vault says, I scored Duarte, Sims 8-4 Duarte. Duarte fought Sims' fight, which made it look closer than it appeared. Yeah, I'm not mad at the score. I had it, man, it was close. It was close. It just depends on what you were looking at, right? That's why boxing is so tough to score. No, I don't think it was a robbery. in this modern era of boxing, guys, it seems that the judges score more points for pressure. And the commentators, correct me if I'm wrong here, nothing against Sergio Mora, Chris Mannix, they're doing their job, they're getting paid. I thought both fights were incredibly biased towards a specific fighter. And I don't really watch a lot of boxing with the commentator, the volume up, because I live stream them. It was hard to watch. Sergio, in my opinion, had a really bad day. He was terrible. And then Sergio was doing the fight. We'll talk about Duarte and Sims first. They were giving so much credence to Oscar Duarte's output. When I was coming up boxing, you would give more credence to the accurate puncher. So when you look at the statistics, if you're gonna push back on the volume, Oscar Duarte's outwork in Sims, Oscar Duarte's much more active fighter. But look at the statistics. Duarte threw, I think, 200 more punches, but only landed, I think, what, maybe 10 more than Sims? So what you have with Sims is an efficient fighter, a guy who doesn't waste a lot of shots, and a guy who's more accurate. To me, that's the better work. That's the classier work. Duarte didn't pressure, cut off the ring. As I said, he fought Sims' fight. Yeah, I scored it 7-5 for Sims. I thought Sims won the fight. The crazy thing is, as I scored it 7-5, going into the judges' scorecards, I definitely didn't think he was gonna win, which sounds wild. My scorecard 7-5, but I was like, they're not gonna give it to him. You could kind of feel it. You know, every fight has an energy about it. You know what I mean? Like if it goes the entire distance, you watch the fight. Each fight has its story. It has a vibe. It has an aura to it. You knew, everybody that I watched the fight with, nobody thought they were going to give it to Kenny. But I had Kenny winning 7 rounds. I think Sims gave away the last 2 rounds, I had Sims winning. I thought he did better work in the last few rounds. Yeah, I thought he did better work. I thought he did the more classier work. I thought Duarte is a, what do we do? Pick an adjective for Duarte as a boxer. Pick one word. Describe Duarte in one word. Keep it positive. I'm trying to find another word for brave. All fighters are brave. Duarte is a... Exactly, Fresh BX. Fresh BX says, feels like people don't read the rules of how you're supposed to score a boxing match. There's actual rules, not just scoring. Fresh BX, the issue with this as well is that we have judges who've never boxed. How could we have judges who box, who are scoring boxing, something so technical, who've never punched before? Durable. I'm thinking another word for Duarte, it'll come to me. Boxing fan, determined, something along those lines. Durable to me, it means like, you know, a guy who obviously could take a lot of shots and, you know, never looks like he's going to get out of there. I think determined is something more that I'm thinking of. Keeping it willing, yeah, exactly. Willingness, eager, he's keen, he's like up for it, that sort of thing. So that's what the judges saw. Sims' problem this fight was he didn't win early rounds, clearly enough. Dude, this gives me memories of Puello losing Matias and Bivol losing to Better Beef in the first fight, pressure fighter. Yeah, the pressure fighter, I mean, we've given a lot of credence to the pressure fighter over the last 5 years. Did you guys see Duarte's back? Yeah, they were, but guys, that's just, that's just body composition. You know what I mean? That you could tell Duarte's training, he probably does a lot of strength and conditioning. There's this weird nuanced approach with old school trainers and new school trainers. And it's tough to even argue with them because I told this story once on the show. I was going back and forth with my buddy Kelly Pavlik about strength and conditioning. How can I argue with a kid like Kelly, who's a boxing Hall of Famer, a world champion, 40-2, 34 knockouts? Who am I to say that he's wrong with how he was coached? Kelly was coached by a guy who was so old school, they still believe to not do functional strength training. They think that doing strength training slows you down, which goes against all the science. There's a book on scientific training, which I coach, which you could find, ASIC, which is specifically written on statistics and measurements on how to move the body functionally to create power, speed, explosivity, and strength. So who am I to tell Kelly Pavlik that strength training doesn't make you slow? You know what I'm saying? Because whatever he did, it worked for him. Now, when you look at a fighter's body composition, you could tell one guy does strength training, one guy doesn't. Duarte just is into functional strength training. You know what I mean? Because, he has, and this is what I coach, and this is how I train. So you could see in Sims, obviously, Sims could definitely use a strength program. You could just see in their body composition. Relentless. Yep. Stubborn. Donnie on TV. Okay. Yeah, we're all seeing the same. He's stubborn. Yeah, stubborn, resilient, relentless. That's it. I didn't score it. I feel like Duarte edged it. Duarte looked like he hasn't laughed. Julia says Duarte hasn't laughed since he was a kid. That's so. Well, he's super. He's focused, mate. And Golden Boy feels that they got one with him. All right. Will you tune into Duarte's next fight? History Vault says Duarte outworked Sims, landed more and landed the harder punches. Sims had good, clean single punches. Donnie on TV says Duarte versus Pitbull would be huge. Julia says Duarte looks like he was a cartel hitman with 100 bodies. I look at Duarte and I see Oscar Duarte reminds me of a 1920s, 1930s classic Hollywood actor. Every time I see Duarte, I could just see this dude in like a old sort of long style tuxedo with like a bow tie with a little mustache with his hair kind of trimmed. And yeah, he just reminds I see like classic Hollywood vibes. Or like it looks like he's out of central casting. You could put him right into like a classic like mob film, cartel film, but like he'd play like the guy who was like a suave character. Martha Prince, Ohio in the house. Martha Prince says, Johnny, how do you rate Lucas Body? Keep an eye on Lucas Body. I like Lucas Body. I want to see more of Lucas Body. The dude could, he has a good resume thus far. People have a lot of high hopes for him. They feel that they got a champion in Lucas Body. Donnie on TV, his promoter is a famous Mexican actor. Oscar? I thought Golden Boy was his promoter. Duarte versus Pitbull. Sims standing in front of Duarte too much. But History Vault says Sims stood in front of Duarte too much. But isn't that what people said he wasn't going to be able to do? And he did. Sims stood right in front of him. Exactly. That's my point. Sims stood right in front of him, and people said he wouldn't be able to do it. And I thought Duarte was the one who got buzzed a couple times. Dude, Marlon Brando is a G. Prime Marlon Brando. Not, obviously, we know what happened to him at, like, what's one of my favorite Brando films? A Streetcar Named Desire. That one, that version of Brando. I think he's in his 20s or 30s. They did say he wanted to do some sort of acting. Did they? Somebody in the chat should know. The chat will know. Gabriel Soto. The chat is wise. Donnie on TV, Gabriel Soto. All right, so we're talking, I think the jury's out. I think we could collectively say, it was a close fight, not a robbery, even though I had Sims winning. Duarte fought brave, and I will watch Duarte every time he fights, 100%. History says he's disappointed with Duarte. He clearly didn't. History, I don't know. I saw a game plan, History Vault. I saw a game plan, but that game plan is super one-dimensional. Oscar Duarte's game plan is pushing his opponent on their back foot, pressuring them, cornering them, forcing them into a dogfight, breaking them down to the body, and making them exchange with you. That's always worked for him. And I I thought Duarte looked frustrated at times. I thought Duarte in his corner looked like a guy who didn't have any answers, but that's just me. Maybe Duarte underestimated the grittiness of Sims. Regis versus JoJo too. Julius, I'm up for Regis versus JoJo too. Why not do that fight? You know, give both of them a bag, put it on Riyadh season. Like, let the boys get a payout. I don't want, you know what I'm saying? I would watch that. Beer Slanov. Boxing fan always says the right messages, man. Give the community some love. They talk about him versus Gary Antoine. GAR at 140. Ooh, I don't mind that. Duarte, I mean, give him a title shot. Let's see how he does against GAR. GMS put it on the elect. I gave it 7.5 Sims potentially, so we scored it the same. I gave it 7.5 Sims too, but I'm not mad about the judges. Adu, Jojo calling 2 fingers when that was insane, guys. Dude, that was absolutely insane. Jojo Diaz couldn't see. What do we know about that? And if you guys box, you know what that's an outcome of. Jojo couldn't see because he has 0 peripheral vision. So when they do the eye test, it's not here, it's here, right? No peripheral. He was just guessing, and the doctor should be ashamed of himself. It's like, dude, talk about gaslighting a whole sport. We got gaslit right in front of us. Like, we were watching it in real time, like, oh yeah, he is putting up 2 fingers when he's putting up 1. Oh yeah, he's putting up 1 finger when he's putting up 2. It was hilarious. Cambosis versus Regis, who y'all got? That's a good question. I gotta be honest, I liked what I saw from Regis. Regis looked good. He looked good. There were moments, his offense, he looked sharp. I was impressed. You could tell Regis put a lot of work in. You could tell he had a good training camp. He was sharp. He was clean. It's just that punch resistance wasn't there. But a lot, you know what it was though? He didn't get dropped. Regis didn't get dropped, and it was the very first punch in the very first round, the equilibrium shot. And sometimes when you get hit in the back here above the ear, when your equilibrium goes, it rattles your brain. It takes a long time to recover from that. Yeah, so GMS put on the elect says training underwater with Shushu kept Regis from getting dropped. Well, their style of training is actually a style of training made famous by one of the most, iconic big wave surfers of all time named Laird Hamilton. So Laird Hamilton, he has a company. He's actually in my first book. Laird Hamilton is the first guy in the 80s who's in Hawaii who was like, why are we waiting on the coastline to surf? Why are we waiting for waves to come to us? Why don't we get into a jet ski and go all the way out into the middle of the ocean and chase these 40-footers? So Laird Hamilton is one of the first ever big wave surfers. I went through this phase of interviewing big wave surfers. So I've had him on my show before. I interviewed Kai Lenny before on my show. Laird's in my first book. Laird has a company, I think it's called XPT Training. You could look into it. And athletes from all around the world go to Hawaii, go to Laird's school, and you train strength and conditioning underwater. So it helps with your breathing, it helps with your cardio, it helps with your strength, all types of benefits for that style of training. But I didn't see Shushu doing it, but I saw Regis, and he definitely got that from Laird. I think it's XPT Training. You can look into that, boys. But yeah, I have a swimming pool, and I have water weights, and during the summer, and sometimes I have clients who need to rehab. I do a lot of it for rehabilitation as well. Going underwater, low resistance, but good for extension, good for recovery, good for the joints as well. Julius Armstrong, Ituama. Let's see what history said. History said, nah, Sims' career will go strong from here since Duarte didn't do what he wanted to do. I think Sims is a good fighter. I think Sims is solid. I don't think his career is over. He's 31. Sims is a tough out. Boxing needs guys like Sims. Boxing needs, for the sake credibility of our sport, we call it the sweet science. Sims is, got a long career in front of him. I don't. Whoever said he's a bum is outrageous. That's an outrageous take. Julius Armstrong Goodman by decision. You guys know how I feel about that fight. He's referring to Sam Goodman versus Nick Paul. Nick Paul. I told you already that I'm taking Goodman in that fight. Goat says Reese Bellotti already has a new fight date after losing. He's fighting Pat Leon. That's insane. We won a lot of money betting against Reese Bellotti. I know that Gary went against my pick, but we were eating. I was like, there's no way Bellotti's winning, and we were right. Julius Armstrong, Ford decision. Ford is fighting Nova. Bellotti, Money Meach, Money Meach with his standard, Adelaide TKO. Big Shadow, what's up, buddy? Each fight to have knockdowns last time was, yeah, we put that up in the Discord. The under 1.5 knockdown was a lock I shared. So if you guys aren't members in the Discord, join. I'm one of the boys who charges so much for his picks because he's a professional bettor. He gives Johnny Says Boxing Insiders his picks, his locks, gives me them, and I relay them in our group for free. You guys pay like a couple bucks a month. Join the insider group. The link is in the comments, and then you get access to the Discord. I don't understand why more people aren't doing that. Well, it's grown. We're up to about 140 people in there, which is great. But I know a lot of people, are unaware of how much collectively our group wins. Collectively, man, we're eating. Martha Prince, Regis looks sharp. It seems training with Sims Carrington. Yep. Usyk, appreciate you, Usyk, hooking me up. Why do you reckon I should fight? Usyk in the house, supporting the channel. Who should Usyk fight next, boys? Big Shadow, join the Discord. Boxing fan. Goat over 6.5 rounds of ball fight. I like the distance in the ball fight, but I have to wait till my props come out, Goat. Living in Australia, man, they make us wait. Donnie on TV. Chicago was such a great location for that fight because there are a lot of Mexicans that live there. Yeah, Donnie, it was awesome to hear the crowd. It was awesome to hear the crowd. History Vault, Johnny. It's all good, brother. I saw your post, though, History. Didn't you post on our page that you were at the fight? Boxing fan, let's effing go. Usyk, take care of our league. Boxing fan's my guy. So, yeah, we have there's some big fights to look ahead to. I've been here, some of the boys are down because there's not a lot of fights. There isn't any sort of mainstream action this weekend, but we got some action. I'm doing 3 fight features this week on the channel. So guys, in Africa this weekend, we have the number 7 light heavyweight in the world fighting the number 26 light heavyweight in the world. We have the number 14 featherweight fighting, and we have the number 7 cruiserweight. So we have some top 20 talent globally on this same fight card in Africa. So I'm going to be breaking down, analyzing, and uploading Albert Ramirez versus Jerome Paboloni, Mirko Coelho versus Sergio Rios Jimenez, and the Mike Perez Christian Luis fight. So we have action. Stay on the channel. I'm doing at least three Stats Don't Lie videos for the fights happening in Africa. I'm also going to be featuring the UFC card. Guys, you got to let me know because, boxing is our wheelhouse. But as you know, I'm a lifelong MMA fan, and I bet, and my whole channel used to be just MMA. This hoodie I'm wearing was an MMA live stream show I did for 2 years during the pandemic, a gambling show on Instagram with an MMA journalist. His name's Tyler. We did a show on Instagram for 2 years every Wednesday called Easy Money, in which I'd give you my picks and basically do the same thing I do on my YouTube, but just for UFC. So that's why, the last 3 weeks, I've missed one fight over the last 3 weeks in UFC, and that was my upset of the week when I was wrong. I picked McGee over Peter Yan, but everything else hit. Yes, last night I hit 8 out of 8. UFC card last night. Yeah, 100% Big Shadow. We were eating last night in the UFC, baby. So my question is, will it be too convoluting on my channel to start doing Stats Don't Lie videos for MMA? I want to ask the chat. I'm leaving this strictly up to the chat. I'm going to ask all week. Should I just keep the Stats Don't Lie videos for boxing, or should I start sprinkling some UFC fights? Because this weekend is one of those examples where there are probably more, there aren't a lot of quote unquote mainstream boxing matches going on. Probably none. Like I said, I know the fighters. But have a think about it. I'm going to be asking the question on all the live streams this week because, we are a boxing channel. Johnny says boxing. And it's interesting to see when new people see my MMA picks. They don't trust them, but it's my wheelhouse too. I'm just not a fan of a casual bush. Like to see it. Sure, if you have enough time. Yeah, okay. So what I'm thinking of is I might just do maybe one UFC Stats Don't Lie video a week. I'll think about it. Maybe for pay-per-view. Yeah, Big Shadow. Something like that. Because people keep asking for it. Brandon says Sam Goodman keeps going up in value. He is now plus 360 on the money line, plus 560. Brandon, hey, I know you guys are, you guys do your due diligence. A lot of smart bettors, a lot of wise boxing heads on our channel. Meaning that a lot of you guys know your stuff, gonna see certain odds and be like, this doesn't feel right. I think stylistically, like ever since it got announced, I like the matchup for Goodman based on what he does well and what Nick Ball struggles to do. Just like last night, I went all in on Kenny Sims Jr. If you give me Kenny Sims at plus 265, I'm taking him. So when you take an underdog and he loses, you know what I'm saying? So you give me Sam Goodman at that money, that value, I'm taking him. Do you rate Connor Wallace? They're going to have to roll the dice with him soon. Yeah, Rambler. They're going to have to roll the dice with him soon. DJ Green. Brandon says, if Sam hits, I'll be up very much. Come on, Sam. Don't make me. Havlock. What's up, Havlock? Haven't seen you in the stream in a while. Appreciate you, brother. Havlock, man, you got to get in the Discord, brother. All your people are in the Discord. Tip the bartender. Yeah, if you guys hit on my picks, any tip helps. I got to give a shout out to Carlos. Carlos is Los24 on our channel. He's Los24 in the Discord. He tipped me on PayPal, which I didn't even know you could do. Appreciate you, Carlos. Los24, mate. That was a nice little surprise to wake up to. So if you guys are having fun, entertained, if you're winning on anything that we're doing, support me in any way you can. How many times do you think Ball will throw his opponent to the ground? It should be a betting option, right? It should be a betting option. Jazz, what's up? That is DAZN commentary. Jazz agrees. He says DAZN commentary was awful. At one point, they said Duarte is winning based on... Exactly. Jazz, Sergio was so terrible. And I'm hesitant with saying that because of my rivalry to him as a fighter. But I'm able to compartmentalize a fighter, my respect for fighters versus commentary. The stuff he was saying about Jojo Diaz was insane. He was talking about Jojo Diaz was ready for a world title fight. Sergio was acting as if Jojo was ready for a world title fight in multiple weight classes. It was insane. Sergio was getting beat up, or Jojo was getting beat up, man. He landed some good shots, but Sergio was out of his mind, I think, man. He said that Jojo was the more accurate puncher. In the Jojo versus Regis fight, he was saying that Jojo was doing the more accuracy, like the more classier work. Some of the stuff he was saying, like I had to take a look back and like question, do I not know anything about boxing? Like he was making me question, like, put it this way. I remember a couple years ago, I'm watching Vasily Lomachenko training videos, and I'm watching Loma hit the heavy bag. And you guys know, Loma's heavy bag work is so insane, so technical, so effortless. I remember watching Loma hit the heavy bag, and I thought to myself, I'm never hitting the heavy bag again. I was like, I'm never uploading a video of me boxing again. I was like, I'm fucking horrible. I'm fucking shitty. That's how Loma made me feel. Listening to Sergio last night had me questioning if I even was watching the same sport, if I even knew anything. It was, and then I had to remind myself, no, this isn't right. This guy is out of his mind, dude. Like, he's not seeing what I'm seeing. Yeah, okay. Is why I'm sure there's channels, boys, out there that are doing a live stream just like this who are probably praising Sergio, right? You'd have to think there's an for him to even become, and Chris Mannix's scorecards were terrible. Like, what is going on? Steven Nelson announced it 2 hours ago on his Twitter he's going to be on the Crawford Canelo. Nice. So cold. So cold. So cold fought Pacheco really well. If it was a 10-rounder, you probably would have to go at the robbery. Yeah, it's getting close, boys. We're getting close. We're getting down to the nitty-gritty where the whole live streams are going to be about Canelo Crawford. You know, this is the calm before the storm. But we got work in front of us, guys. We have a fun card this weekend on DAZN. So don't let the mainstream, your boxing content creators on YouTube who have hundreds of thousands of subscribers, don't let them fool you into thinking there's no fights. Albert Ramirez versus Pampaloni, the main is a fun fight, guys, at light heavyweight. Number 7 versus 26. Jazz in the house hooking it up. Appreciate you, brother. The little tips with the little super chat. Thank you. Jazz is a Johnny says Boxing Insider. Join the Boxing Insider group. My favorite thing about that is our community. Like I said, some of the boys, Brandon set his Discord up, so I'll soon be joining yours. Nice, Brandon. Appreciate you. I know some of the boys wanted my Discord, our Discord, to be a little bit more uniform. It's uniformed. We have boxing thread, MMA thread, bet slip thread. And then a lot of the boys will private inbox me. Now, my favorite thing about our, and if you go to Gary's, Gary's is super formatted. I like mine. The way I'm running mine, as you guys know who have the blue stars, is it's a community. Like, I like that a lot of you boys take over the chat, and then that creates community, and you guys have trust in each other as well. Because what better way to brainstorm and become successful at our predictions than picking the brains of our whole squad? You know what I mean? I could be the catalyst, and I love when there's discourse and you guys win. So that's the best bit. I said it last night on our stream. I don't sit on a high chair. I don't try to present myself as here. It's like we're all doing this together. Jazz, UFC has bigger betting limits than boxing. UFC has bigger betting limits. Jazz, give me an example. What UFC has bigger so UFC limits the bets more? Is that what you mean? Bigger betting limits. So the UFC won't allow you to wager as much as boxing will? Or are you saying they'll limit you if you start winning? Boxing limits more. Guys, you got to educate me on this. Yeah, I'm very interested when you guys are talking about limiting more. Are you talking about wagers? Or are you talking about like a bettor who is winning and then they kind of limit you from making future bets? You can bet more on, okay. So Jazz, like you can bet more on a UFC fight. Rand Verlitter. Let me get to Donnie. Donnie says, who do I think Virgil will fight in October? Donnie, man, there's so many fights at 54. I mean, I just want to see Virgil fight. Ranver, Johnny, my guy, what's up? I didn't bet boxing this week, but when anyone on the UFC card, I basically made back what I lost on Taraji fight. That was disappointing. I thought Taraji won. Yeah, Ranvar, I did really well in the UFC too. I went 8 for 8, picked some good upsets. Taraji, yeah, we lost that one, brother. We lost that one. DJ Green says he means money limit, able to put more money on your bets. Okay. Okay. That's interesting. Jazz says there's way more liquidity in UFC. You can bet 20K on a UFC fight before line moves and 2K. I think, boys, does that have to do with because there's so much parity in the UFC? Meaning that just because, for instance, I'm going to be real with you, just because I hit 8 out of 8 yesterday, UFC over the last few years is more difficult than it's ever been to bet on. I lived in Vegas from 2011 to 2012, and then from 2013 to about 2016 as well. I'm not going to say I always won on UFC, but that's all I used to bet on. It was a lot easier to win money betting on the UFC a couple years ago based off of what happened was about, we'll say 5 to 8 years ago, when Dana White started implementing the Contender Series, when Dana White started implementing Road to the UFC, when Dana White started implementing the Apex, which means more fights, and the natural growth of the sport with the regional fight leagues in America, such as the couple big promotions down in Texas, the LFA. You have the one out in New York, Cage Fury, I think. You get a lot of matchups, kind of 50-50 fights, and there's a lot more parity. Before, you'd see one-sided swings. Big shout out to Arab Giant favorites in UFC, and a lot have been losing this year. Yeah, so Big Shadow, this is why, and Big Shadow presents an excellent lesson here, guys, and this is what I always try to teach with my boxing breakdowns and on my channel is I never bet odds. So the UFC, and he brings up a great point, the UFC, I feel, is trickier because as the bettor, if you're not fully kind of invested into each fighter, you could get honey-dicked by the odds. You could see odds, but oh shit, I'm about to go heavy, that's a win. And then all of a sudden you didn't know that that's a grappler versus a striker, and the striker who was the big favorite that you went heavy on because he's like $1.40, you didn't know that he can't defend the double leg. You also didn't know that that striker, if he is on his back, he doesn't know how to get up. So then the grappler spends all, 15 minutes on the ground with him and you lose a decision and there's an upset. So it's important to understand stylistic matchups as well in the UFC. So don't just bet on the odds. And if you do, ask me a question. A lot of undefeated fighters losing. Yeah, that dude. Think about it happens all the time in the UFC. Also because there's a website where people track and sell their picks. That's insane. Yeah, that's insane. Good for them. I like our little community here, man. Yeah, that gets a little wishy-washy, doesn't it? But yeah, I think I do with the UFC. My wheelhouse is knowing the careers, veterans when they have these classic gatekeeper fights. That's such a great perspective. Don't bet on matchups you're not familiar with. 100%, mate. Discord was lit this week. Everyone posted. Yeah, Discord's been popping. Discord's fun. I didn't think I would like the Discord because it looks Discord's optic looks like a college spreadsheet from like 2004. But I like that. I like that it's not bells and whistles. You know what I'm saying? So, and the community's really good there. Anthony Beller, big facts. Khabib used to be minus 300. Now random contenders minus 6. Yeah, everyone's getting better, Anthony. 100%. Goat, the one and only time I bet on UFC, I bet on Buckley. Yep, Goat, I gave you bad advice, mate. That was my fault, Goat. I'm gonna fess up to it. I had the boys getting excited about Buckley getting one over on Usman. I wasn't just guessing. Based on where their trajectory was, their career, I didn't think that Usman would have it in his tank to keep Buckley down, and he did. Usman fought a perfect fight, too. Usman fought a perfect fight, dude. He fought. I mean, how could we have known that Usman was going to fight this perfect fight, man, with a chip on his shoulder? What a night. What's up, Socks? Jazz, my last UFC bets during COVID. It was the only sport alongside soccer. Yeah, COVID was a wild time, boys. Thank God we're out of that. Big Shadow, everyone chose Buckley. Yeah, man. Hats off to Usman. Anthony Baller, I thought Buckley would win too, man. That was a big upset. Yeah, and that was, if you remember that fight card, if we pull up our bet slips, that was the only one we needed too. And it was like, yeah, you bet enough in your life, the older you get, you have a lot of those parlays where everything hits except one. But, I think I did a 4-leg that night. and that was the one I was least stressed with, and that was the one that didn't hit. Hamzat Chimaev is a -200. Let's look at those odds. Let's look at those odds. Hamzat, he's fighting Duplessis, I think, right? When is that going down? Um, okay. So next weekend, Unos Medic is fighting. Elijah Smith, Eric Anders, Andre Feely, Miles Johns, Steve Roman Delatse, Andrade Hooper, Elliott Battle, Kane Silva, King Green, Edson Barbosa, Cannoneer. Okay, that's August 17th. Dricus Duplessis is a +253 against Chimaev at $1.50. Mate, you're out. Dude, Dricus at plus money is insane to me. People love Hamzat, but mate, Hamzat went life and death with Gilbert. Um, and, no shade on. Are these really the odds? I'm just check. There's no way these are the odds. That's insane. He's the favorite against Dracus Duplessis. Insane to me. When he fought a lightweight Gilbert. I mean, Gil jumped up to 70. And, I think Gilbert Burns did his best work at 155. I mean, we know about his his issues. I don't know if they're health related. He looks good. He looks good. I don't know, man. It's hard to bet against Dracus Duplessis with that style. Dracus Duplessis has this just awkward, unorthodox style, mate. Everything he does, you wouldn't teach. But the one thing he has that you can't teach is this sort of pressure, this resiliency. He almost knows he's going to win before Duplessis has this style. It's like a marauding sort of, I don't want to say arrogant, but he almost knows he's going to win with how he fights. It's pretty interesting. You hate Duplessis, but bro's taking my breath twice. You hate him, man. I remember when he was coming up, when he came out of South Africa and he was about to make his debut. He fought his first fight and he gets on the microphone and he grabs the mic and he starts talking about Afrikaners, and there's a lot of South Africans here in Australia, and globally the Afrikaners, the white South Africans, the Dutch, basically the Dutch who came. They have a bad reputation, mate. Do your research or history if you want to get in. I'm not trying to bring it up for the political side. I'm talking about what I saw a kid making his debut, grabbing the microphone, how he was speaking, the intent that he was speaking about. I remember talking to one of my clients. It was the next day we were doing a cardio session. I was like, dude, this kid from South Africa is going to be a world champion. I was like, he's definitely his size. He's massive. He's not going to be intimidated by anybody. He's not going to get outworked. He's unorthodox. Mate, you're giving Duplessis plus money against Chimaev. Let's go. I thought Chimaev lost again. I thought Gilbert Burns, a lightweight, beat Chimaev. Jack Rafferty, Mark Chamberlain. When is Chamberlain Rafferty going on, Robert? That's not this weekend? If it's not round one, though, Chimaev is done. You're welcome, my man. Donnie on TV, stay aboard. Appreciate you, boys. Boxing fan, you're the man. Yeah, Money Meech. Best, yeah. But my point was Duplessis, he was speaking from a place of, he was speaking bigger than the sport. You rarely ever see that with any athlete who's doesn't have a household name, who is using their platform to bring people together. It's like, mate, that tells you something about a young athlete. I'm talking when Duplessis won his first fight. You could YouTube the speech he gave. it tells you that he's fighting for something bigger than himself, and he's confident, and he's prepared. You give me plus money, man. How do I pass that up? How do you, and he's the champ? How do you pass that up? And it's a style. I can't wait to see those styles clash. I didn't see, because I'm so straightforward with boxing, I still watch every MMA fight. Like yesterday, if you watched the stream, I was watching both at the same time. Yeah, but he does have that squeeze. But man, Duplessis is just. We'll see what happens. There was a kid. Who was the kid who came up with Duplessis? He was, I think, a 135er. He was fun to watch. He never panned out. He's only like 24 years old. He started off. I think he won his first 2 fights, 2 performance of the night bonuses, and then I think he lost 3 out of his last 4. I thought he was going to be a perennial title contender as well. Younger kid, looked like a model. Yeah, Cameron Simon, love the chat, love the chat, dude. Talk about Wellmaker, man. We're Malcolm Wellmaker out of Georgia, mates. You know, this is why you got to love the UFC though, because he's at one time soon enough, Wellmaker's gonna have to answer some questions. And this is why we love the sport. This is why I love MMA. You got to answer some questions. My brain says Hamzat rounds 1 or 2. That's insane, baller. Okay, you see Hamzat stopping him. Could happen. Do you guys think that Ilia Topuria beat Makhachev? I think so. I'll take Wellmaker over O'Malley. Simon, Chimaev. Yeah. Kevin Holland, though, Chimaev's massive. Kevin Holland, you know, we've seen him fight at 70, at 85. I think he's more of a natural 70 guy. Not a lot of muscle on him. He's spoken before on public. He doesn't like cutting weight. So Holland, Holland's been ragdolled by more people than just Chimaev, though. I can see Ribic for Vallejo bringing going back to the UFC. Dude, both those guys were in great fights last night. Wellmaker is a gangster. Topuria easy over Islam. Yeah, the thing about it's a good, interesting thing to talk about Topuria and Islam is the fact that, I mean, we've seen Islam got stopped before. We've seen Islam lose in the UFC. And Topuria, what he does well, obviously his hands and his boxing, but he could grapple. Topuria could defend the takedown. Topuria is super athletic. I don't like that. Look, the Dagestani style, you know, not talking about Saeed Nurmagomedov and not talking about Shara Bullet, because those are Dagestani strikers, but the atypical Nurmagomedov style that, you know, Dagestani wrestling, the footwork, super pressure, out of position a lot, believe it or not. They do a lot of things on the feet that are just bad. Yeah, and Makhachev has to get past Jack D. Della Maddalena's a goddamn animal, dude. All you have to know about Jack Della Maddalena, dude, is in his second pro fight in Perth, he got his nose rearranged in his second pro fight. I have a big ass nose from getting broke too. So this shit has been broken multiple times since I was a boy fighting. Jack's nose is here. It's like here. And he's like, I ain't getting it fixed. Fuck it. I don't need that nose. I don't care what Jack is a guy. And look at Jack's hands. His hands are, and Jack could grapple. Boy, that's going to be a fun fight. That's going to be a fun fight. And Jack is big too, dude. People, you know, he's only 5'11", but Jack is stout. I think it was like when people were kind of, if you would ever meet Bilal Muhammad, you know, Bilal's a buddy of mine. I met Bilal multiple times. He's a Midwest guy, Chicago guy. Bilal would blow you away with how big he is. I'm talking like thick, because we're the same height, 5'11". I walk around at about 180. Bilal's walking around at like 195, just no, like barely any fat either. Who do you favor, Diego Lopez or John Silva? I got Silva in that fight. I even, guys, when Diego was coming up on the regional scene through Brazil, then Mexico, and then fighting in the LFA, the knock on Diego was his durability. Diego would get stopped. He was classified as chinny, and then he went on this long run in the UFC, and people had forgotten about that, but I never forgot about that. I was never 100% sold on Diego Lopez just because I had watched him in the regionals. He did, you know, and I love when a kid proves me wrong in terms of their trajectory. I didn't think Diego would end up becoming like a star like he's become. I think John Silva stops him. Islam, JDM confirmed. Do you think the boxing and takedown defense? I think it can. I think it definitely can. JDM has strong hips, big big too, athletic, strong hands. You got to get past those hands first, boy. He got a nice uppercut. JD, that's a good fight. Islam by dark stroke, maybe. I meant, and he's 5'10", 190. Yeah, Islam is bigger than me. He's at least 6 feet tall. They have the height wrong with the UFC. Robert, Islam would be better if taking a couple tune-ups. Dwayne Styles, what's up, my man? Hey, Johnny, I learned my lesson last night. I should have done money line. I had a 2-leg parlay last night. Regis on points. Oscar. Dwayne, I tell you boys, don't get sexy on your bets. It's about getting victories. It's about winning and moving forward. Dwayne Styles, think about betting as, a win and go home tournament. Like, psychologically when you're putting your bets. Like the NCAA basketball tournament. You lose, you're out. So when you're making your decisions, get the win, get the victory. And then once you put a couple victories in front of you, then you can get sexy. But doing the method of victories, that's a sexy bet. It's a tough thing to do. Big Shadow says Lopez is tough, but I think John Silva got that one. John Silva fights with a ferocity. The thing about John Silva, why I would pick him over Lopez is because John Silva doesn't know he could lose yet. And with his style, John Silva is like a mini Vanderlei Silva. I don't know how far you guys go back in your MMA knowledge, but I've been watching it since 1993, the very first UFC, but also I watched all of the Pride FC fights, and the Axe Murderer, a Brazilian out of the Shoot the Box Academy in, I think it's Sao Paulo. Vanderlei Silva, skinhead, big tat here, in the middle. He had these classic wars with Kazushi Sakuraba. Watch those fights. Go to YouTube. Watch Vanderlei Silva versus Sakuraba. Sakuraba is one of my all-time favorites. My point is, the way Vanderlei would fight, dude, it's how John Silva fights. And, similar styles. And, you take that style and you put kind of an invincibility mindset behind it. That's a tough out. Lopez, I've seen him question himself before in fights. I think Silva actually blows right through him. I got to be honest with you. Evelev versus Silva will be the matchup for the belt if Volk moves up. Yeah, we've seen Evelev. We've seen him get questioned too in a couple fights. It's a good point. Boxing fan, it's still day one, motherfucker. My man, you read my book. So Dwayne, he's giving you that's an acronym in my book that Boxing Fan purchased, my second book, The 24-Hour Reset. ISD1MFF is an acronym I've always used for my clients and myself in terms of progress, results, mindset, staying focused on a goal. It's still day one, motherfucker, meaning that if you wanted to lose 100 pounds, right, and you're 6 months into your 100-pound journey and you've lost 50 pounds and you're halfway there, rather than looking at it that you're halfway there, go into the very next day, even though you're down 50 pounds, go down like it's your first day. So every day is your first day, meaning that every day the effort you're going to put forth is that amount of effort that it took to get started. That's what that means. Can't get that too close. Saludos. Wilmer in the house. Dwayne in the house. My guy Bo Nickel back to wrestling. Did Bo Nickel leave? He lost and went back to wrestling. Yeah, he kind of has that hair thing. Robert Floss, positivity, perseverance, P2. There we go. There's two. There's another great little acronym. Guys, wherever you're tuning in, let's like this video. We're almost an hour in. I'm going to go live again later today. I got some videos to do. I'm going to be covering that African card. I made it. Sorry if you went over. What's up, Kyle? If you went over it already, but is there some good boxing in Australia this weekend? Kyle Hayden 999. There's boxing in Africa this weekend on DAZN. There's some good matchups at light heavyweight, some top 20 matchups in 3 different divisions. And I'm going to be covering 3 of those fights. In Australia, I'm not quite sure. There's an Australian card the following Wednesday with Nikita Tszyu. I'm going to that fight. So not this week, but the following week, Nikita Tszyu's fighting, Michael Zarafa's fighting. I'm going to be covering those fights. It'll be a Wednesday night here, or Wednesday morning in America. Kyle Hayden, Africa. It should be interesting. There's some good fights on that card, boys. And Big Shadow is referring to the last African card got me scared. Yeah, that last African card was horrible. It was promoted by Amir Khan. DAZN after an hour of the stream just going in and out, DAZN just scrubbed it from their platform. You can barely find any results. Brandon Glanton was supposed to fight on that card. It shows no history of him fighting on that card. And then we had a domestic level fight, I think at 122 pounds that we actually bet on, and oh god, never again. At least Big Shadow, the 3 fights I'm going to be covering in this card, they are between guys who are in the top 20. Like I said, the number 7 cruiserweight in the world, a number 12 light heavyweight, and Mirko Coelho, he's number 14 in the world at feather. Albert Ramirez is number 7 in the world at light heavy. And Mike Perez is number 7 in the world at cruiser. And the matchups are pretty even. So the question is going to be, what are the odds? What odds are we going to get? When is our book going to release those odds? And we also have the UFC this weekend. So we have a kid out of Georgia who's headlining, who's been around for a long time, and Roman Delace from Georgia. So Delace is a guy best known for stealing JP Bays' wife. Hey, these are the facts, mate. In my opinion, Delace is best known for jacking JP Bays' wife. So, anyway, if you guys didn't know that, that's what happened. But she used to fight in the UFC. JP was a South African fighter. Fluffy's fighting. I'm a big fan of Fluffy. I always win money on Fluffy, man. He's always the underdog. He's gritty. He's bigger than people. He's long. His grappling's insane. He's tough as nails. Fluffy brings a Mexican boxing style into the octagon, which you don't see, meaning that he's going to have cardio for days. He's going to be gritty. He's a dog. Yeah, he's one of my favorite fighters. I love watching Fluffy fight. When Fluffy tapped fucking Rodolfo like 3 years ago, Fluffy was a 5-1 dog. I put like 100 on him, and he submitted. And this is when Rodolfo had just won, I think, the Worlds. I think he had just won the BJJ. What do they call that? The Mundo, the Mundo now. And so like ever since he hasn't lost since. He's a fun fighter too. He's durable. With Fluffy, you always know that you're going to get a guy who, especially he's kind of like a gambler's fighter, meaning that you're going to get a guy who's going to give you your value for your money. You're never going to have to worry about him having an off night. You're never going to have to worry about him sort of not being prepared. Michel Pereira was a tough watch. Domination. Yeah, dude, talk about a tough watch. Remember Michel Pereira fought that lightweight from Canada? And I think he lost. I always think it was Cody Crowley, but Cody Crowley's a boxer. There's a kid from Canada who's a lightweight, fought Pereira on like 24-hour notice. And my memory wants to say that he beat him, but maybe it was like a close decision. But yeah, Pereira's always been a head scratcher to me. So in my MMA UFC betting do's and don'ts, I don't bet on Michel Pereira. He has gotten a lot more conservative with his style. You know, he's no longer somersaulting and doing backflips on the way to the octagon like he was when he made his debut. And then you'd see him gas. You see this guy doing capoeira into the octagon. And then around into his fight, he gasses. And it's like, what are we doing, dude? He's doing like capoeira somersaults in the octagon in a fight. Wild stuff. Fun, entertaining. It is. We are in the business of entertainment. That is a fact. Cannonier is fighting. Cannonier is always fighting. Is there somebody? Cannonier is 48 years old. He might be the most active. Cannonier is fighting again against MVP. That's insane. He's fighting August 17th. The Killer Gorilla. Lerone Murphy is fighting Aaron Pico. Did you see Cal Cruz? Yeah. I don't bet on Cal Cruz. That whole fight was a sham. He fought a junior middleweight on 24-hour notice. He was supposed to fight Franklin. Franklin or Hackett. And Yeah, so for what it was odd. It was you do the backflip and it was bizarre. Every time I see fighters do the backflip, I think of uh was it what's his name? The big Brazilian who does the back he did the worm and he like forever ruined his collarbone, Johnny Walker. So whenever I see like fighters and then you see the backflip, man, I've seen guys tear their ACL before on the landing. It's like, what are we doing? This is insane. Your body is your business. You know what I mean? You're an entrepreneur. Your body is your business. You're a combat sports like athlete. You're working your way to, wealth, and that I don't know, mate. Maybe I'm the conservative old head. But when I see heavyweights, yeah, we know you're an athlete, Tristan. We know you can do backflips. But hell, like, do you really want to do that right now with gloves on? It's insane. Yeah, DJ, Google it. Johnny Walker came into the UFC. Johnny Walker came into the UFC, wins by a spectacular fashion. I'm talking, he for an eyelash of time, there was a moment where people were saying that he could have had the trajectory of Conor McGregor. He was marketable, he was flashy, his fight style was insane, and people in the know knew on the regional level he had been stopped before. He came to the UFC, and the narrative was he was chinny, but we hadn't seen it yet. The UFC fans hadn't seen it yet, and he had just won by impressive stoppage, and he goes in to do the worm and tears, I think, his labrum and his rotator cuff. Steve Ursig, Ode Osborne. Damn, Fluffy's a big favorite. I don't like those odds. Fluffy's $1.30. Delatse is $3.56. I actually don't like those odds. Will the fight go the distance? All right, we'll have to wait till later in the week for those odds to open up. Chris B, I missed big time on that Sims fight. Yeah, I mean, missing on a $2.65 underdog isn't the it's not the end of the world. Yeah, DJ, when he did it, I mean, he's never been able to live that down, by the way. Eric Anders, Christian Leroy Duncan. All right, there's some good props that going into this weekend on the UFC. When we get those options, I'm going to give you them. Like the Eric Anders, CLD fight. Ooh, the Andre Fili C-Rod fight. That's a fun fight. Elijah Smith is fighting. He's a fun prospect. Gilbert Urbina, I think, versus Uras Medic, the doctor. So Gilbert Urbina is a guy, comes from a fighting family on the regional circuit, I think either New Mexico or Texas. And, when he has success, he looks good, but when he doesn't, he gets stopped. And Uras Medic, his style, they call him the doctor, similar. When we get an option, will this fight go the distance? We're taking no, for sure, 100%. We don't even have to take a winner. So, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I got to get to work. I got to do some film study on these fights in Africa. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, like this video, join our Discord. That link is pinned in the comment section below. You become a Johnny Says Boxing insider, and then you get access to the Discord where all the big boys are. Yeah, boxing. I post them in the... So, boxing fan, if you go to our Discord, you'll see the MMA thread. So, we have a boxing thread, an MMA thread, and our parlay thread. If you splash your ear in the door, you can give yourself cauliflower ear. Yeah, Rambler, I grew up with guys who would do that. We got my buddy from the UK who's staying with me, who just left. He's a rugby guy, and he has cauliflower ear, and we were just talking